violence. We have argued that as India is taken to the brink by Hindu nationalism, Hindu extremism, indeed Hindu fascism, it is imperative that India's majority Hindu community wake up and speak up. My gratitude to the organizers for making room in this conference for voices of faith. One important step towards justice in the world is sincere bridge building between secular and faith-based activists and movements. I'm representing a Hindu organization whose mandate is to oppose all hatred and all bigotry, including Hindutva ideology. We work tirelessly to mobilize and activate Hindu community members in India and the diaspora to firstly become aware of the destruction of secular India by Hindu extremists, and secondly, categorically oppose Hindutva and defend pluralistic India. It is terribly sad that for the most part, the only Hindus raising their voice today as Hindus are those who want to see India transformed into a Hindu Rashtra, where non-Hindus are not welcome. This panel interrogates the deafening silence on the part of both ordinary Hindus and Hindu religious leaders on deteriorating human rights and religious freedom in India. When Hindus do raise their voices, our voices against Hindutva, as we do, they are characterized by the Hindu right as anti-Hindu and anti-India. We have gathered three panelists today with three very different perspectives on the question of the role of Hindus in fighting Hindutva and advocating for a secular and pluralistic India. We have a scientist turned Hindu renunciant. We have a veteran Hindi language journalist and a religion professor and Vedantic scholar who is a Trinidadian Hindu. Each will address the silence on the part of not all, but the vast majority of Hindus as both the tenets of the Indian constitution and the tenets of Hinduism itself are betrayed and India hurtles towards a possible genocide. There are many that take issue with the use of the word genocide to describe what's happening in India today. I'd like to be very clear that this conference, and certainly Hindus for Human Rights, is sounding a warning bell. Genocide Watch, one of the lead organizers of this conference, warned of the Rwandan genocide 5 full years before it happened. And Genocide Watch has given the warning that all the signs are there that a genocide is likely in India. As was discussed in an interview I recently gave Karan Thapar, according to the official definition of genocide, which includes the extreme hate speech and calls for genocide, which we recently saw in Haridwar, a genocide is most certainly underway in India. I humbly assert that to suggest that the use of the word genocide is hyperbolic or inaccurate is a function of the privilege of the majority community and educated elites who would likely not be the victims of said genocide, either because they're not the targets or because they have the resources to leave. It is the majority Hindu community and the affluent and educated classes that have the luxury of taking nuanced views on the word genocide, as at least one speaker did in an earlier panel today. Hindus for Human Rights is not interested in a technical or semantic debate on whether or not India is really headed towards a genocide. What we are asking, indeed pleading to the majority community, the Hindu community, is that they wake up and notice that hatred and violence is being propagated in our name and in the name of our religion, and that this hatred and violence is escalating to an alarming degree. The community being targeted is India's Muslim community, and they have no luxury of taking a nuanced view about where India is headed under Modi. They must treat the loud and explicit calls for genocide as real and serious and prepare for the worst, and appeal to the international community to act now to prevent a genocide before it's too late. My message to Hindu Indians and the Hindu Indian diaspora is, we do not want to be in a position to look back after a genocide when it is too late and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives are lost, and say, we regret we ignored all the signs and did not warn of it. I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker today, Ramadi Akhma is a former computer science student from Kerala and a full-time resident and community member of Matrices Ashram in Haridwar. He is a spiritual student of Swami Shivanand Saraswati, the founder and spiritual leader of Matrices Ashram. The ashram is devoted to environmental justice, climate action, and in particular, saving the Ganga River. I was fortunate to have visited Matrices Ashram in the winter of 2019. Brahmachariji speaks to us from Haridwar, where we all saw the Dharma Sansad in December 2021, calling on Hindus to drop their books and pick up swords to commit a genocide against India's Muslims. Brahmachariji, the floor is yours.
Ji, namaste to all. Thank you, Sundaji. I would be happy to talk on behalf of Matrices, and I would like to tell the little history of Matrices. Matrices was established in 1997 by our Gurudevji, His Holiness Gurudevji Swami Shivaram Saraswati Ji. Formerly, he was a chemistry teacher, and from his childhood onwards, he was always inclined to spiritual path. And in the end, 1995, he decided to take sannyas and do meditation. He came to Himalaya, and he had a clairvoyance of to stay in Haridwar and do the sadhana. Then he came to Haridwar, and in 97, he had a little piece of land. In a little piece of land, he started Matrices. And the very first year when he established the ashram near the banks of Ganga in Haridwar, mining was happening, rampant illegal mining was happening in front of our ashram. So one day during his bath, he had a clairvoyance of Ganga, but he told that clairvoyance was of such a strong voice and such a divine push that he understood that it is a message from Ganga, from the divine to fight for Ganga. And from that very day onwards, Matrices is involved in Gangaji's fighting, whether if it's in the corruption front, in the mining, against the dam, in every front, Matrices began his fight. And in 2022, today, up to this day, almost three saints have sacrificed their life for this cause. Swami Gokulanand Saraswati ji, he was murdered in Nainital by the mining mafia. In post-mortem, squalene poison was found out from his viscera. In 2011, Swami Nigamanand Saraswati, he was given organophosphate poisoning. That was also found out. And even the CBI court ordered an reinvestigation to the CBI, because the CBI first investigation, the CBI was bribed, and it's all clearly, we have the evidence. It was bribed by the mining mafia uh, through the government. I mean, and CBI court in 2016 found it out and ordered the CBI, giving certain points to you have to, you didn't did the investigation in the proper manner, and you have to reinvestigate, giving the points. And up to this date, that case is still pending. The CBI is not yet, has not yet started the reinvestigation. It's in pending because the government is directly involved. The then chief minister, the then secretaries, bureaucrats, everyone will be nabbed if the investigation is started. And in 2018, Swami Gyan Swarup Sananji, Professor G.D. Agarwal, who was like the father of environmental engineering in India after the freedom. I mean, he was the very one who set up the whole environmental aspect of government. I mean, even if it's CPCB, he was the founding member, secretary of CPC. Such a designated person, even the high-ranking bureaucrats, even the minister, everyone knows about him. He was murdered in AIMS Rishikesh in the name of treatment, and we have proof, but no one is ready to hear. Even the then director of AIM, he was involved with the government, and everything was, just like that. No one is ready to listen to anything. And if someone takes an action, he will be transferred or he will be threatened. And in 2020, Sadhu Padmavati, she, a woman saint of Matrices, she was poisoned. She was in her tapasya and she was taken by forcefully by the government, and she was poisoned. And Sunita ji knows now she is in a wheelchair with a very it was Gangaji's blessing that she is alive. She had a very drastic neuro problem. Neuro. It was the poisoning was of such a kind that it destroyed her neurons in the brain. But she is recovering. But she is still in a wheelchair. And our Gurudevji, Swami Sivanand Saraswati, he was given arsenic poison. In 2000, he was taken by the police while during his tapasya, and he was taken to the jail, and his satyagraha continued in the jail also. So the jail attendants, they injected arsenic poison into lemon in a small quantity and started giving to him because the jail is supplying everything whatever he needs. So after 20 days, 10 days, after 10 days, he had the uh, symptoms of an arsenic poison, but he didn't understand. Later, after coming to Haridwar ashram, he had severe bleeding, his internal organs, and everything was collapsing. So, but it was the divine who helped him, and it, through up to this date, the divine is helping us also. And after that, his nails and hairs were sent to a laboratory in France by our one of our through our devotees. And this, when the test was done, the lab attendant, they asked to the devotee that is this person still alive? And then he asked, yeah, the content is such. We have the reports with us. The content is such that uh, uh, no one could have escaped from this sort of poisoning of arsenic because it was at that extent. And even today, we preserve the nails and hair so that we could do that test nearby to any lab and understand now what is the quantity. So this is what happening, and it is a very shame to know that uh, after all, this is a Hindutva. The government claim we are of a Hindutva party, and we just have to ask one question: that from 2014 to 2022, almost more than 25 satyagraha has happened in this ashram for this cause. In that, one Swami Gyanswarup Sananji and Sadhu Padmavati. Both of the Sananji was dead, he was murdered, and Padmavati was nearly murdered, but she escaped. Why, if they were claim that Ganga is their mother, then why have we had to do this sanction, all this satyagraha up to this date? And even there is a possibility of satyagraha from tomorrow because things are not going what we expected. I mean, the government, they have Namami Gange project, which worth of 22,000 crores, and the whole dams that causing destruction in this Himalayan region just cost only 3,000 crores. And if they cancel those damming projects, almost 90% of Gangaji's problems are solved. But why are the Namami Gange not doing that? Because they are not interested in the welfare. They just want to uh, allocate budgets and give it to the contractor and to get commission from the politicians, the mafias, even the stone crushers in Haridwar. Almost 100 stone crushers are situated in a 10-kilometer stretch of Gangaji in Haridwar because that is the intensity of corruption in this Uttarakhand or in this country, because the country, the main central agency MOE of NGT, they are responsible for all this, and they are knowingly. What does this government does is that if they begin any kind of ministry like Jal Shakti Ministry or NGT, that means they want to do more disaster to the environment. So they need permissions. I mean, by setting up all these kind of institutions, they give permission to these mafias, and they will do in their accordance, and they will tell that no, we got permission from NGT and MOs, we can do it. So this is the
Brahmachariji,
condition. Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. It would be great to hear you talk about the actual significance religiously, spiritually
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Haridwar and the fact that Dharma Sansad happened in Haridwar. I know you have some
yeah.
very interesting thoughts about this.
Yes, yes. Actually, what we were quite surprised to know that there's Dharam Sansad happened in Haridwar. I mean, in Haridwar, if you ask a 10-year child what is the problem in Haridwar, they will tell Gangaji is the and biggest disaster that is happening today is the harassment of Gangaji. Even a 10-year boy can, or child or girl can understand. And in this is Haridwar. There is not even in our ancient also. We don't even have two saints from outside, sannyasis from outside who supports our cause, because everyone is politically motivated. And I feel this Dharam Sandha, we feel astonished. Where do these people come from? Who are they? 99.9% in the sannyasis in Haridwar, they are the politically motivated people. They just wear, like Ravan wearing the garb of a sannyasi and updating Sita. This is the situation of Haridwar. These all are Ravan. They are not real saints. They just in the name of sannyasi. I mean, the government is put them in that position that we need a nod of a sannyasi, so you will not for us. Then okay, we will not for that. We, we have many people, not only Gangaji, many institutions which were going from the before independence, many Indian institutions which are now under the threat of this BJP and RSS in Haridwar. It's not just Gangaji. Everything is in threat because of this sannyasi. Not sannyasi, these Ravanas. And the significance of Haridwar is such that Haridwar is considered as the matlock of Shivaji, the hair of Shivaji. Because Haridwar acts as a runway, like from Himalayas, the Gangaji comes in such a velocity of flow that it's in the Puranas. It's interestingly quoted, told in the Purana that when Gangaji was coming to earth, she was going Patalgami. I mean, she was going underground. With such a force, she was coming. Then Shivaji suddenly opened his matlocks and scattered it. So the water could, which would touch the, I mean, would fall on the matlocks, and it was spread even in the earth. In Prithvi, they tell, but it's in the earth. So that Matlocks is Haridwar. If you see the Google map in the geographically, you can understand that with such a velocity, it's acting as a runway. The plane comes in such a force and it lands on it. So Gangaji is landing on Haridwar, and the rocks or boulders which are found in Haridwar, that section of rocks are only present for in Haridwar only for a 10 kilometers stretch. After that, there are no rocks. Those kind of rocks are not there after 10 kilometers, nor before 10 kilometers. It's hard rock. So these rocks are dug up, and these rocks are thousands of years, thousands and lakhs of years old. And these rocks are dug out in the name of development. And what development? These rocks are considered as Shivalingas. Once Parshurama took this rock to Rameswaram, South India, so the rock's inner conscience started crying, telling to Parashurama that I don't want to go anywhere. I would like to be in Gangaji. So Parashurama assured that rock that don't, no, you don't have to worry. Saints will come and pour water over you. Wherever I take you to, their saints will come and do this too. So okay, if that is okay, then I will come. This is the importance and spirituality of this single rock. I mean, these kind of rocks are crushed and put used in the roads, used in the house and all, because it's not the matter of development. If they really care about development, there are many in the mountain areas. You can see many sort of rock sliding, so everything is happening. They could take that rock, but in a profit wise looking, they will only get a 40% profit. But in from Gangaji, it's 199% profit.
Brahmachariji,
And
you just have a like really time to wind up. Can you end with your message to ordinary Indian Hindus? What would you want to say to them?
to Hindus, this is what I would like to tell is the government they claims to be Hindutva. It's just more than I'm not telling that government is only arrogant or arrogant to other religion. Government is, if Swami Vivekananda was present in this time, RSS and BJP would have killed him first. So people have to understand this. The mode and the kind of religious Hindutva they are talking about, it's just invoking the common Hindus ideas, but inside they are 100% corporates. If you go inside, They're 100% core. And how they talk, you, whoever goes to, whoever a common man goes to a RSS or BJP's meeting, you can understand the way they talk. They plot. They never does a meeting. Their meeting looks like, always sounds like a plotting. And it's duty of the people of India to understand this. And just imagine, if they say Hindutva, then if they say Ganga, if they say Gai, Ganga and Gita, and which one is say, I mean, क्या बचा है आज के टाइम? आज के टाइम में कुछ नहीं बचा है, बस कहने कहने वाली बात है. ना नारी बचा है. उस समय एक सीता को ही हर के ले आया. आज के टाइम में सीता क्या, स्त्रीलिंग नाम का कुछ भी चीज हो, वो उसमें जान हो या जान नहीं हो, सब खतरा में है.
Thank you, Brahmachari ji. Thank you so much. Punya, I know that, would you be able to translate
Thank
that last part? Thank you, Brahmachari ji. Pranam to you.
Thank you. Basically, what Brahmachari ji said was, look, people are pointing out that there is very little left here now for us to be trying to fight for. So a lot of the people, correct me if I'm misunderstanding you, Brahmachari, but a lot of the people who are in the ruling dispensations, in the Hindutva dispensations, say that the Ganga and other such areas are irreparably corrupt and they don't feel any need to help them at all. And they say that in the past, maybe we talked about, one Sita being stolen away, but now the thousands going, what are you going to do about it? This is what our society has become, that we don't really care about our values and about our, our spirit, that which animates us. Is that fair?
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you.
Thank you, Punya. Punya is a board member and a co-founder of Hindus for Human Rights, and he will be helping with translation in our webinar. Brahmachari ji, I'm so deeply grateful and blessed that the same Haridwar where we saw such awful calls for violence also has Matrices ashram, and you and Gurudev and the whole community that's, as far as I'm concerned, living up to true Hinduism, which is about love and peace and respect for every atom of the universe. So thank you, Brahmachari ji. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Dr. Rakesh Pattak, who is a veteran and award-winning Hindi language journalist. He's a senior journalist, writer, and poet, and chief editor of Karamveer news portal. He is a former editor at Naya Dunya, Nav Bharat, Nav Prabhat, and Pradesh Today. He has served as editor-in-chief of Dateline India DNN news channels. At a time when the mainstream media is so thoroughly aligned with the government, it has been inspiring to see Dr. Pattak speaking so bravely against the rising levels of hatred and violence in India. So, Dr. Pattak, Rakesh ji, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
And Punya will translate every 1 or 2 sentences. Thanks, Punya.
Thank you, Sunita. First of all, I would like to say hello, Sat Sri Akal, Adab, Namaste. Those who are listening on this platform across the world. And I am very thankful to you and your organization to give me this opportunity. I will try to speak a little simple Hindi, so Punya can translate. And this is, for me, this is quite comfortable to deliver my thoughts and views about this subject. Look, Sunita, first of all, I would like to go in the history. When you will look Indian history for 1000 years, when in 1800 AD, Muhammad bin Qasim intruded India. He was the first intruder, we can say. Before him, Shak, Hun, Kushan, so many intruders intrude India, but like a Muslim ruler from Faras or Iran, etc. From Muhammad bin Qasim to 1947, there are so many Muslim rulers ruled India, like in the Sultanate period, in the Ghulam Vansh, Tughlaq Vansh, Khilji Vansh. There are so many Muslim rulers who ruled India. But no one said Hindutva in threat, Hindutva at risk. No one said in this period. किसी ने नहीं कहा कि हिंदुत्व खतरे में है. And after this Sultanate period, Babur comes India. Then 100 years Mughals was here. No one said Hindutva in danger, Hindutva at risk. No one said. In the Sultanate period, there was a bhakti movement. And you know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so many Ramanujacharya, Ramanandacharya, there were so many saints and poets, writers. They never wrote a single line, हिंदुत्व खतरे में है. किसी ने सल्तनत काल में नहीं लिखा. मुगल काल में रामचरितमानस, तुलसीदास wrote Ramcharitmanas in the period of Akbar. Tulsidas never mentioned Hindutva in Hindutva khatre mein hai. Then after Mughal period, 200 years, nearly 200 years of British period. From War of Plassey to 1857, first war for our independence. No one said Hindutva khatre mein hai. Even our freedom fighters of first revolution, they choose their commander-in-chief, Bahadur Shah Jafar, a Muslim king. They never thought Hindu-Muslim angle. And after this first freedom struggle of 1857 up to 1947, the Gandhi era, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel, Maulana Azad, Subhash Chandra Bose, no one said Hindutva khatre mein hai. Kisi ne nahi kaha. Our freedom struggle was fought by the Hindu and Muslim together. But with the emergence of RSS in 1925, it starts in India. Hindu-Muslim binary, Hindu-Muslim narrative set by RSS and Muslim League, Jinnah. Then only this Islamophobia enters in our society. With the ages, now RSS is going to complete his 100 year in 2025. And in this period of Narendra Modi, Amit Shah and RSS, they are now ready to reach their target of Hindu Rashtra. Actually, basic agenda of RSS is Hindu Rashtra. They want to convert this secular nation, secular state into Hindu Rashtra. These elements are not fringe elements. Usually, intellectuals try to avoid these peoples that they are fringe elements. But I think they are the main hardliners of this ideology. And they are the parallel line of so-called literate and democratist faces of RSS. Because RSS has so many faces. In our journalism, Prabhas Joshi was a very renowned journalist and editor. He always described RSS as a snake of 7 faces. 7 मुंह का 7 फन वाला सांप है. पुण्य में ठीक चल रहा हूं ना?
बहुत ही अच्छा सरकार, बहुत ही अच्छा
जी.
आपका लहजा हिंदी में बहुत अच्छा है
जी. चलिए हिंदी में बात करते हैं. तो ये जी बिल्कुल बिल्कुल ठीक है. तो दरअसल में आरएसएस का जो मूल एजेंडा है उससे हमें समझना होगा. उनका एजेंडा है भारत को एक हिंदू राष्ट्र में बदल देना. और उसके लिए ये जो डेमोक्रेटिक फेस है, उनका जो लोकतांत्रिक चेहरा है, ये सिर्फ एक मुखौटा है। जी पुण्य।
So, Rakesh ji, thank you. I mean, what started off by
मैं आगे,
saying,
हाँ यस, आप, मैं बोलता
yeah.
जाऊंगा अभी, आप थोड़ा सा कर लीजिए ट्रांसलेट।
Okay, so RSS has many faces, and one of his friends used to say that has 7 different faces, but has multiple faces. And the thing to remember is that they are looking to establish a quote-unquote Hindu Rashtra, one that is totally against the values of a secular India, of a real India, the India that's historically been true for several thousand years, one where different groups live together, and that they put this mask of democracy on, and we shouldn't believe this mask of democracy they put on in order to go push this agenda forward.
मेरा कहना यह है बन के, दरअसल में जब हम नरसंहार की बात करते हैं, जेनोसाइड की बात करते हैं, तो ये थोड़ा जल्दी लगता है लोगों को। जैसा सुनीता ने शुरू में अपने इंट्रो में कहा कि बहुत सारे लोगों को लगता है कि जेनोसाइड इंडिया में नहीं हो सकता, ये बहुत बड़ी बात है, अभी से इसके बारे में सोचना थोड़ी जल्दबाजी है। मैं बार बार कहता हूं कि कोई भी तालिबान, कोई भी बोको हराम, कोई ISIS एक दिन में नहीं बनता, उसे 10-20 साल लगते हैं, और हिंदुस्तान उसी राह पर चल पड़ा है। ये बहुत शुरुआती फेज है, लेकिन कोई नहीं जानता ये कब सचमुच में उस रूप में सामने आ जाएगा जिसे हम जेनोसाइड के रूप में अभी से चिंतित हैं, जिसे देखते हुए। जी बोलिए।
Thank you. So Rakesh ji कह रहे हैं कि what he's saying is that, look, many people, like you pointed out, Sunita, in your initial statement, say that it's too early to talk about genocide. And what his point is that genocide doesn't happen overnight. And ISIS, Boko Haram, these kind of organizations don't come up overnight. They take 10 to 20 years to actually execute on their vision and their plan. And that early vision and planning has started now. And it's important for us to call this out now, rather than wait and then suddenly be surprised when in 3 years or 4 years, suddenly it manifests in full. But we are well on that pathway, and we're definitely on that road at this time. It's not too early to talk about it.
Yes. अब इसका रास्ता जो है उसको देखना होगा। देखिए, जब मेजोरिटेरियन सोसाइटी अपने माइनॉरिटीज को पहनना ओढ़ना सिखाने लगती है, जब उसे खान पान सिखाने लगती है, उस पर पाबंदियां लगाती है। अभी हमने देखा हमारे साउथ में स्कूल्स में हिजाब पहनने पर फिर एक सिख बच्ची को उसका टर्बन लगा के आई थी, उसे उतारने के लिए कहा गया। तो ये वो जो पाथ जो है तालिबान होने का, तालिबानीकरण का, किसी समाज के तालिबाइजेशन होने का, ये वही रास्ता है। जबकि सभ्य समाज में, डेमोक्रेटिक सोसाइटी में, वो समाज अच्छा समझा जाता है जो अपनी माइनॉरिटीज को उनके रिलीजियस, उनके जो आस्था के विषय हैं, उनके जो कस्टम्स हैं, उनके जो रिचुअल्स हैं, उनके लिए जगह देता है, उनका सम्मान करता है। पूरी दुनिया में ये एक मान्य परंपरा है, ये माना हुआ सिद्धांत है कि वो समाज ज्यादा सभ्य माना जाता है कि जो अपने भीतर के कम संख्या के लोगों को इज्जत देता है, उनकी हर रवायत को जगह देता है अपने समाज में। लेकिन हिंदुस्तान में यही सब छीनने की कोशिशें इस पूरे विचार समूह ने, ये जो आइडियोलॉजिकल ग्रुप है, और जो ग्रुप नहीं है वे सत्ता में बैठे लोग हैं, इसलिए ज्यादा बड़ा खतरा है कि वे जो कुछ कर रहे हैं, मैं अगले अपने कथन में उस पर आऊंगा कि दरअसल में मौन देश के लोग नहीं है, हिंदू मौन नहीं है, मौन है सरकार। गवर्नमेंट इज मम, गवर्नमेंट इज साइलेंट actually. So this is the big threat to the society of India, and idea of India is in threat.
So जो आप कह रहे थे, so the real clear point is that any decent society, any high quality society, is one that is able to care for the experiences of the minorities within them, whether it's their religious experiences, their cultural experiences, their practices, and so on, and is able to give them space so that they can express themselves fully. At this point in India, the majoritarian view is moving towards the Talibanization of India. And this Talibanization is seen in the ability, in the work to control what people can eat, what people can wear, what people can do, often under the name of uniformity. But this is obviously the wrong idea, and every sensitive sensible civilization in the world has known this, that you give space to your minorities, you let them fly and succeed, and that's how you build a real society. And this is what's missing here. And he teased us by saying that the problem is not just that the Hindu is silent or the people are silent, but that the state is silent. So
yeah. अब now मैं आता हूं हरिद्वार हेट स्पीच और जो धर्म संसद. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई वुड लाइक टू से अधर्म संसद. ये धर्म संसद नहीं है, क्योंकि कोई धर्म, दुनिया का कोई धर्म किसी दूसरे धर्म के 20 लाख 30 लाख लोगों को मारने का आह्वान नहीं कर सकता. कोई धर्म दूसरे की हत्या करने का आह्वान नहीं करता. एक इंसान की हत्या की भी इजाजत कोई धर्म नहीं देता. और इन अधर्म संसदों में जो आह्वान किए गए, जो कॉल किया गया कि हथियार उठा लो, इन सबको मार दो, इन्हें हिंदुस्तान से बाहर निकालना है, ये ज्यादा बड़ा खतरा है कि जो धर्म संसदें हुई हैं, किसी सरकार ने, किसी गवर्नमेंट एजेंसी ने उस तरह से रिएक्ट नहीं किया जिसे करना चाहिए था. पहली जिम्मेदारी उनकी है. दूसरी जिम्मेदारी सोसाइटी की भी है. मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं कि सचमुच में चिंता की बात, जितना समाज का मौन है उतना ही सरकार का मौन है, उतना ही बहुसंख्यक समाज का मौन भी है. क्योंकि सचमुच में उतना मुखर लोग नहीं हुए हैं. मैंने शुरू में कहा और अब भी मैं कह रहा हूं कि हिंदू समाज मौन नहीं है, लेकिन उतना मुखर नहीं है जितना बोलना चाहिए. जिस मेजोरिटी के साथ इसके खिलाफ उस निकल कर आना चाहिए था. खास तौर से मैं एक हिस्सा और इसमें जोड़ना चाहता हूं कि इन धर्म संसदों में, और ये जो जितने भी सन्यासी लोग बोल रहे थे, मैं उनके नाम भी नहीं लेना चाहता, वे महिलाओं के खिलाफ जो बोल रहे हैं, दरअसल में हिंदू राष्ट्र की अवधारणा में जो वुमेन है, स्त्री है, उसका जो दर्जा है वो पता चलता है. वो जो यति जो बाबा है, कितना उसने आपत्तिजनक महिलाओं के लिए कहा है. तो कल्पना की जा सकती है कि जब सचमुच इनका हिंदू राष्ट्र बन जाएगा तो स्त्रियों की क्या दशा होगी. तो समाज के इस आधे हिस्से को, महिलाओं को भी बोलना चाहिए था, पर लोग नहीं बोले. ये ही चिंता की बात है. जी पंडित.
So, and it's pointing out that the problem is, first off, that when you looked at what happened in Haridwar, what we should call an Adharm Sansad, not a Dharm Sansad, because these were not people who were acting from faith. These are people acting from fear and anger and whatever other emotion they have. These are not religiously inspired people, and we should not give them that dignity of pretending that they are inspired by religion. We should call them for what they are, adharmic. And when they did what they did, and their calls for killing 20 million people is ridiculous. No religion says that you can kill one person. Forget about killing 20 million people. And the state, the organs of the state, the police, the administration, the different groups did not act. They did not act till they were forced to act by civil society, by other people. And this is a serious failure of the Indian state. The second part is that the Hindu majority, which is the theme of this panel, the Hindu majority did speak, but not loudly enough. And people are not realizing the consequences for themselves of this. The same people who spoke there have said disgusting things about women, and that if they succeed in their governance ideas, the status of women will be degraded dramatically. Their quality of life will be dramatically reduced. And they don't seem to realize the consequences for themselves. So while some Hindus have spoken up, far more need to speak up, and far more need to get a much stronger voice saying that these people are not doing these things in our name or in the name of our religion. That is one of the biggest gaps at this point. The state is missing its job, and the vast Hindu majority is speaking up a little bit, but not in the numbers required or in the quality required.
मैं अपनी बात एक दो बातों के साथ खत्म करना चाहूंगा. सुनीता, ये खतरा सिर्फ इस्लामोफोबिया के नाम पर, मुसलमानों के नाम पर ही नहीं है. इनका नेक्स्ट टारगेट ईसाई होंगे, फिर ट्राइबल होंगे, आदिवासी होंगे, और ईसाई अभी भी टारगेट पर हैं. मध्य प्रदेश और कई स्टेट्स में एंटी ईसाई मूवमेंट चलते रहते हैं. क्रिश्चियनिटी के खिलाफ अभियान आरएसएस चलाता रहता है. तो ये खतरा अकेला सिर्फ मुसलमानों के नाम पर नहीं है इनकी तरफ से, ये आगे बढ़ने ही वाला है. तो मुझे लगता है कि सबसे पहली जरूरत ये है कि सचमुच हिंदू समाज को मुखर होकर बोलना चाहिए और उसे ये कहना चाहिए, हिंदुत्व वो नहीं है जो ये बता रहे हैं. असली हिंदुत्व वो है जो वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की बात करता है. और इसके लिए सबको मुखर होना पड़ेगा, सामने आना पड़ेगा. ऐसे काम नहीं चलेगा कि ये लोग बोलते रहें और हिंदू समाज नहीं बोले, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली जो फासिज्म है वो अपने पैदा करने वाले को, अपने जनक और जननी को ही खा जाता है। इनका टारगेट सिर्फ मुसलमान और ईसाई नहीं होंगे, लास्ट में ये हिंदू समाज के भीतर भी लोगों को खाना शुरू कर देंगे, वे भी इसके शिकार होंगे। और अभी मेरे कल ध्यान में आया है कि बीजेपी के एक एमएलए ने मुसलमानों के वोटिंग राइट को विड्रॉ करने की बात कही, और ये बहुत पुराना एजेंडा है कि मुसलमान वोट नहीं डाल सके। लिटरली एक एमएलए जिसने संविधान की शपथ ली है, वो मुसलमानों के वोट का अधिकार छीनने की बात कर रहा है। तो मैं अपनी बात को बस यहां खत्म करना चाह रहा हूं दुष्यंत कुमार के एक शेर के साथ कि बाढ़ की संभावनाएं सामने हैं और नदियों के किनारे घर बने हैं। बाढ़ की संभावनाएं सामने हैं और नदियों के किनारे घर बने हैं। चीड़ वन में आंधियों की बात मत कर, इन दरख्तों के बहुत नाजुक तने हैं। लेकिन चीड़ वन को बचाने के लिए, इन नाजुक दरख्तों के तनों को बचाने के लिए आंधियों की बात करना होगी। आंधी आ रही है, तूफान हमारे सामने आ रहा है। हम शुतुर्मुर्ग बन के रेत में मुंह छुपाकर नहीं बैठ सकते, हमें आवाज उठानी होगी। और कम से कम मैं, आप, सुनीता जी, हम सब लोग आवाज उठा रहे हैं। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया मुझे ये मौका देने के लिए। ये मेरे आखिरी कमेंट को आप कर दीजिएगा जी।
Thank you, Rakesh ji. So, and what he points out is that we've got to remember that this is not about one religion, that, Islamophobia is one part, but there's an anti-Christian element that is ongoing at this point, especially in Madhya Pradesh, where Rakesh ji is based. But the RSS had a long-standing anti-Christian agenda. Once they do this, they will go attack the Adivasis, our First Nations, our tribals, and then they'll go extend this further. And, eventually fascism eats its own parents. It's not as if the people who support it or quiet around it end up living a good life. And so the attacks will then become on impure Hindus and others who are not good enough or not pure enough or not doing the right things. We already have seen their anti-caste warfare and so on. So finally, so the point is that this is a place where all Hindus need to speak up and say that this is not the truth. What these people are claiming is not the truth. And the truth is the one that comes to us from Vasudev Kutumbakam. The world is our family. And he ends with this lovely couplet, which I will translate roughly because shairi ki ada to shairi ki ada hoti hai, kya karein? It says that, look, the river is in flood. We are living on homes that are right on the brink, on soft mud. People are scared to talk about the coming storm, but we must talk about the storm because that's the only way in order to keep our houses safe. Digging our faces into the sand will not help us. We must speak up and speak out and repair what we have broken. So, Rakesh ji,
बहुत अच्छा ट्रांसलेशन किया आपने, सो नाइस, थैंक यू।
बहुत
शुक्रिया पुण्य जी, बहुत शुक्रिया।
Thank you, Punya. Thank you, Rakesh ji. And Rakesh ji is raising his voice in Hindi, and his words are reaching far further into, all corners of India than ours. And we are also trying to connect ourselves to people in all the states of India. And hopefully, if we join voices together, we will make a dent. At least that's what we are all trying for. Thank you, Rakesh ji, so much. And Punya.
Thank you, Sunita. Thank you, Sunita ji.
Yes. So our last speaker today is Professor Anantanand Rambachan, who is a professor of religion, philosophy, and Asian studies at St. Olaf College. He's also co-president of Religions for Peace. Professor Rambachan has been involved in the field of interreligious relations and dialogue for over 30 years as a Hindu participant and analyst. He's the author of many, many books and articles. Anantji is also my personal teacher, guide, guru, mentor in my own spiritual journey to find a way to live my life as a Hindu who stands against caste and Hindutva. So I'm deeply honored that Anantji is here with us today.
Thank you very much, Sunita ji. Namaste. Greetings, my dear brothers and sisters. I'm very happy to join my fellow panelists, Dr. Rakesh and Brahmachari Akhma Bhotanandaji, to add my voice to theirs, and Namaskar Punya ji for your service in translating today. I speak here as a Hindu practitioner and as a Hindu scholar. The call for mass killings of Muslims, made from the platform of the Dharma Sansad, which Rakesh ji quite rightly called Adharma Sansad, convened in the sacred city of Haridwar that Brahmachari Atma Bodhananda spoke about, the city of Haridwar, the gateway to Hari, the gateway to God, in December 2021 is not disputed. It is a fact. Many who participated in this gathering and issued the call for genocide are senior religious and political leaders. Sadhvi Annapurna, who carries the title of Mahamandaleshwar, the great leader of the Niranjani Akhara, General Secretary of the Hindu Mahasabha, issued the following call that my Rakesh ji spoke about, but it's good to hear her words again because these should not be overlooked. And I'm quoting now, "Nothing is possible without weapons. If you want to eliminate their population," speaking here of the Muslims, "then kill them. Be ready to kill and be ready to go to jail. If 100 of us are ready to kill 20 lakhs of them, then we will be victorious and go to jail. Like Nathuram Godse, I am ready to be maligned, but I will pick up arms to defend my Hindutva from every demon who is a threat to my religion." End of quote. Any call for genocide issued by any authority under any name must be universally condemned. I understand, as Rakesh ji said, that there are legal charges filed against some who spoke at this meeting. The legal is necessary, but it is far from sufficient. We know the limits of the legal. A call for killing is contrary to our most basic and universal moral values, and it tears at the heart of our shared common humanity. Such a call is particularly inexcusable and reprehensible when it is issued, however, unauthentic it is, but when it is issued in the name of a religious tradition, in this case, the Hindu religious tradition. Such a shocking call cannot be justified by any appeals to Hindu spiritual teachings and ethical values and must be unambiguously denounced by Hindus across our world. A call for mass killings does not become legitimate because it is shouted by religious leaders in the colored attire of a renunciant. We protect the Hindu tradition not by loud and enraged calls for the killings of fellow human beings, but by standing for its deepest teachings and for its ethical values about our shared humanity and our moral obligations to each other. This is Dharma. So what are those values that spiritually and morally mandate us as Hindus to speak against such calls for violence against our Muslim brothers and sisters? What do we betray? And how do we betray our tradition by our silence? Let me highlight what I regard as 3 core teachings of our tradition, because I want to make the case that our tradition mandates that we speak out. Our tradition does not approve of silent indifference in the face of this reality. So first is in its most sacred teachings, the Hindu tradition commands us to tell the truth, to speak the truth. Yajurveda, Satyam Vada, speak the truth. Satyam eva jayate, Atharva Veda, Nanritam, truth alone triumphs, not untruth. It was adopted as the motto of independent India. Ramayana reminds us, dharmana dusara satya samana, that there is no higher virtue than truth telling. And in this instance, we are called to tell the truth about what is happening. Second, the tradition commands abhaya, freedom from fear. Many choose silence because of fear. But the Hindu traditions in Bhagavad Gita, fearlessness, abhayam, is the first in the list of divine virtues. So what does abhaya mean in our current context? Yes, there are risks. And I know people like Rakesh ji, Brahmachari Akhma Bodhananda are taking risks in speaking the truth. But abhayam, we must be faithful to this value of abhaya. And third, of course, very well-known virtue is our obligation to ahimsa, non-injury, regarded as the highest of all virtues. Ahimsa paramo dharma, as Mahabharata instructs. But ahimsa is not merely personally abstaining from violence to others, but in this context, it requires that we stand up to those who are the perpetrators of violence, and that we stand with and we protect those who are threatened and who are the victims of violence. So ahimsa is a positive, constructive virtue, as Gandhiji himself said. We cannot claim to be committed to core values such as ahimsa, satya, abhaya, if we choose to be silent in the face of violence and incitation to violence committed in the name of our religious tradition. Our fidelity to Hindu Dharma is tested when we are challenged on the basis of our values to express dissent with other members of our religious community. Arjuna had to learn this lesson on Kurukshetra. What is the meaning of our commitment to Hindu Dharma if we seal our lips, if we shut our eyes, if we cover our ears when our so-called leaders invoke the tradition and its sacred symbols to justify hate, violence, and devaluing others? Public calls for killings in the name of Hinduism requires public Hindu condemnation and not silence or whisperings in closed rooms. Our tradition, as again Dr. Rakesh quoted at the end, the well-known Vasudeva Kutumbakam text, our tradition teaches unequivocally that all human beings constitute a single community, having our source in a singular divine reality who exists equally in each one of us. This divine is not the national or tribal deity of a particular religious or ethnic community, but the source of all life, the source of all existence. Through this one, we are united at the deepest levels of our being. Our moral obligation do not stop at the boundaries of our community, but inclusively embrace all human beings. Our compassion, our care for others cannot be circumscribed by religious labels. Transgressing the values of our tradition is not legitimized because it is sanctioned by a religious leader. The teachings of the Hindu tradition do not permit us to speak only when we think Hindu rights are infringed or when Hindus are hurt and threatened. The community for which we are morally responsible includes human beings of all religions and those without religious commitment as well. Our spiritual and our moral obligation as Hindus require us to speak up for every human being, regardless of his or her religious community. We must speak up for every human being who is dehumanized, who is a victim of violence and hate speech. Our most fundamental loyalty is not to a religious community, but to the human community. This is what our tradition is about. So when leaders of our own community transgress the most fundamental teachings of our religion in calling for mass killings of fellow human beings, we cannot choose because of fear or misguided, narrow loyalties to be silent. We must choose to speak the truth without fear. Silence is also a choice. Silence is also a kind of karma. It is not inaction, it is a choice in action. In this case, however, it is an immoral choice. It is an inhumane choice. It is an adharmic choice. Thank you very much, my dear brothers and sisters, for this opportunity to share with you on this panel today. Blessings to each one of you.
So much thanks, Anandji. This is the Hinduism that I embrace and that we invite all Hindus to wake up to and embrace wholeheartedly, and that will help heal our world. Thank you so much. So now we have heard 3 perspectives on why Hindus in India and the world over need to become aware of the atrocities taking place in our name and in the name of our faith. We don't have time for a question and answer session. We were only given 1 hour, but any of you who are listening who have questions for any of the panelists or for Hindus for Human Rights, please write to us at info@hindusforhumanrights.org. We will make sure that your question is answered. And to any Hindu in India or in the diaspora who wants to help us build a community and a movement of Hindus who stand for love and not hate, for the human rights of all, and for whom Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, Atithi Devo Bhava, and Jai Shri Ram are teachings of radical love and inclusiveness, rather than misogynistic and murderous Hindutva and Islamophobia, I welcome you to Hindus for Human Rights. Please join us. Another world is possible, and it's up to us to build it. This panel concludes the first day of the India on the Brink conference. Thank you to everybody who joined, and see you all for tomorrow's panels, which continue this vital conversation about the future of the India that we love. Thank you all very, very much.